Okay, so we're gonna have to file this video under segments on the Humanist Report I thought I would never be doing. Because Bill Maher gave the Democratic Party advice, and it wasn't terrible. It was actually kind of good, surprisingly. Now, of course, it wasn't perfect. This isn't, outstanding political commentary from Bill Maher. In fact, I think it's kind of common sense. But after going in that neoliberal, hacky, elitist direction, to see a segment like this, it's a breath of fresh air. And again, I can't believe I'm saying this about Bill Maher, but nonetheless, we'll watch and then talk about it afterwards.
And finally, new rule. Someone has to tell me why all the best voices speaking out against Republicans are Republicans. Nicole Wallace, Steve Schmidt, Rick Wilson, George Will, Brett Stevens, Joe Scarborough, Richard Painter, Michael Steele, Jennifer Rubin, David Jolly, Anna Navarro, Max Boot, David Frum. They're the ones who are out there with the gloves off, landing head punches. Even Trump's own people tear him down better than any Democrat. McMaster called him a dope. Mattis, a fifth grader. Steve Mnuchin, idiot. Reince Priebus, idiot. John Kelly, fucking idiot. Rex Tillerson, fucking moron. Gary Cohn, dumb as shit. Where are our potty mouths? The midterms are 52 days away, and we know what the Republicans are going to be running on. Socialism. You can't vote for Democrats because they're socialists, and socialism is a work camp in Siberia. And one thing Republicans are really good at is they get in a room together, they come up with a line of bullshit, and they all repeat it over and over and over until even Tommy Lahren can do it. This year, they even taught it to Trump.
And they want to raid Medicare to pay for socialism.
He really puts the moron in oxymoron, doesn't he? Remember back in 2009, the teabagger at the town hall who shouted, "Keep your government hands off my Medicare." Well, that dummy is now president. But I still don't hear Democrats explaining that Medicare is socialism, and so are the other super popular programs like Social Security and the ban on denying coverage for pre-existing conditions. Trump just gave farmers a $12 billion bailout to make up for his stupid tariffs. We took tax money from some people, mostly in New York and California, and gave it to fucking farmers. I mean farmers. That's socialism. Socialism is the reason you don't have to bring your own highway when you want to drive somewhere. It's why there's a fire department to show up when you're burning Nike spread to the house. The U.S. military does more socialism by 9 a.m. than Venezuela does all day. We build weapons that even the Pentagon says it doesn't want. That's a jobs program. Socialism. You're soaking in it. Even Trump voters like their government goodies. So why can't Democrats all get in a room and come out with a single answer to the scary socialism charge? This is the attack on us. And Democrats' response is, I would say crickets, but crickets make some noise. Mike. There is a wholly compromised Russian asset in the White House. You can't make a little political hay out of that. He's not on our side. That's so hard.
So that wasn't too bad, right? I mean, he started off a little rocky. He then did a really great job. And then towards the end, he just completely fell off a cliff. So he first states that Democrats, generally speaking, they do not do a good job at speaking out against the Republicans and combating right-wing rhetoric. I completely agree with that. I don't think they do a sufficient job, but he's wrong in saying that right-wingers are better at speaking out against Republicans and Donald Trump, and he cites individuals like Ana Navarro, Steve Schmidt, Max Boot, and David Frum, and he suggests that the Democrats could learn a thing or two about these individuals, but let me tell you this. These are not resistors, Bill. These are grifters. Know the difference. They care about one thing and one thing only. That is civility. If Donald Trump breaks decorum, then they're all over his ass. But if he passes tax cuts for the rich, if he deregulates Wall Street and industries, they don't care. So they like the policy substance. They just don't like the mean tweets that Donald Trump does. That's not a very effective way to challenge Donald Trump, because they don't care about substance. They're superficially against Donald Trump, and policy is everything. So if you agree with the policy, does it really matter if Donald Trump is mean? If he attacks other Republicans? If he calls Marco Little Marco? I mean, it doesn't matter. So they are not a good template. But I will admit, I liked when he listed off the comments that individuals within Trump's administration said about Donald Trump, calling him an idiot and whatnot. I think that was pretty funny. But this is where he precisely started to nail it for me. He said, the midterms are 52 days away, and we know what the Republicans are going to be running on. Socialism. Couldn't agree more. And he correctly says one thing Republicans are really good at is they get in a room together, they come up with a line of bullshit, and they all repeat it over and over until even Tommy Lauren can do it. That is so true. So true. And I shouldn't even have to, give him credit for saying something that's so painfully obvious, because if you're a political commentator, this should be common sense to you. So the idea is, if Republicans can do this all the time, why can't Democrats do that? Exactly. That's exactly the point. If Democrats got on board with Medicare for all, legalizing marijuana, do you know how popular they would be? They would be unstoppable. They would be unstoppable. But why don't they do this? This is the question that Bill Maher poses. Now, he doesn't take it a step further and say the reason why they don't do this is because donors X, Y, and Z. He doesn't go there, which I would have loved. But nonetheless, he's on the right track. And he says this is how he thinks Democrats should respond to Republicans' fear-mongering over socialism. I still don't hear Democrats explaining that Medicare is socialism, and so are the other super popular programs like Social Security and the ban on denying coverage for pre-existing conditions. And he then goes on to talk about publicly funded roads and the fire department. And here's my favorite part here. Quote, the U.S. military does more socialism by 9 a.m. than Venezuela does all day. Bill, I don't know what's happening, but stay on this track. You're on the right track. This is exactly the advice that Democrats need to hear. And I think the reason why I feel inclined to give Bill Maher credit here is because he actually is someone who neoliberal, corporatist, centrist Democrats listen to. They're on his show all the time. So if he says that, I think that his words carry weight, which is why it's so important. But towards the end there, I don't know what happened. He kind of veered off on this tangent to where he started suggesting that Democrats would do better if they also talked about how Donald Trump was a traitor and how he's a Russian puppet. And look, they're already doing that, Bill, so I don't know what more you expect from them with regard to that, but that's bad advice. You stay glued to the policy. And he kind of got back on track, and he cited how, Dianne Feinstein said that Donald Trump has the potential to be a good president, and he's probably going to serve out his full term and whatnot. And that's correct. Democrats do a horrible job at resisting Donald Trump. In fact, we've now started calling them the assistants, because that's what they do. They assist Republicans. You see Tammy Duckworth calling Donald Trump Cadet Bone Spurs on the Senate floor, but just weeks prior, she voted to give him more powers to spy on Americans without a warrant. Democrats will vote with Republicans to deregulate Wall Street. They'll vote to increase the military budget. Even Elizabeth Warren voted for that. without question. So certainly Democrats don't know how to resist Donald Trump, and one really important part of resisting comes to the rhetoric that they use. But certainly they also have to resist when it comes to action as well, because what he's really talking about here is talking the talk. And certainly they don't know how to do that. But they do have to walk the walk as well. And I feel as if progressives are having to hold their hands to get them to walk the walk, as if they're like a toddler who's learning how to walk, when we shouldn't have to do that. I mean, these are individuals who claim to be policy wonks. They claim to be, in tune with the American people, but they're not. But to Bill Maher's broader point that, Democrats, they shouldn't run away from socialism and they should embrace it and not cower in fear anytime a Republican brings up that word. That's an excellent point. That's exactly correct. My one caveat is that I don't think they should go out of their way to invoke any particular ism, be it socialism or capitalism. I think that they should just try to stay focused on policy exclusively, but I do agree with Bill Maher's point that if Republicans do invoke that word, socialism, Democrats shouldn't run away from it. So, I mean, overall, even though there were some errors, with his judgment here, this was the first really strong segment I've seen from Bill Maher, I think, in years. Now, I'll be honest, I just watched the YouTube clip, so I didn't see the full show, so maybe he said something really fucked up in the other segments. It's very possible, right? But this is what Democrats really need to hear, which is why I was so glad and, quite frankly, relieved to hear someone in mainstream news circles say it. So, Bill, stay on this track, because this is the right track for Democrats. You've got a little bit more work to do and a little bit more to learn, but this is what I want to see from someone who I used to really respect a long time ago.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.